Please welcome Rick Glassman, Sue-Ann Pian, and Albert Rutecki. They're also joined by producer and showrunner Jason Katims. Congratulations on the success of the show. Thank you so much for joining us. Sue-Ann, I'll start with you. Many people cannot begin to understand how the challenges of being on the autism spectrum can be a gift in someone's life in many ways. Your journey has taken you through a lot of difficult times. When you were younger, you discovered your gift of acting, but it was something that not only brought you joy, it helped you survive. Can you talk to us about your experience and how that contributed to your success as an actor today?
Yeah, Tamron. Oh my God, thanks for having us on the show. So for someone like me, from a very young age, it was really obvious that I just stuck out like a sore thumb and something was weird and awkward. And so if I was on the playground, people would come and, pick on me. I didn't have friends and I couldn't figure out why. People would come and talk in front of me as if I wasn't in front of them. It was so mean. And so I was like, well, there are groups of people, I'm very observant. There's groups of people that don't have this stuff happen to them. And what makes them so different? And so I started to do character study from a very young age. I would look at groups of friends I wanted to be a part of, and I would start to study their mannerisms, the way they talk, how they dressed, everything about them. And so now I'm like, I'm an actor, and I realize, wow, that is what I've been doing to a T, just
Wow.
mimicking people.
Well, Rick, you are playing the role of someone in their 20s. You were not diagnosed until you were in your 30s. What do you feel people get wrong about the experience of being an adult with autism?
A lot of people, there's a trope in, at least in some of the representation I've seen on television for people with autism, that they lack empathy and emotion, and that is not the case. I realized in my 30s that people don't think the same exact thing that I think. I always just knew whatever I'm thinking about this situation, so are you. And I literally just lacked the awareness of other perspective. And just by gaining that, and that doesn't mean I understand everything. I just now know, oh, there's probably something I don't know. The greatest thing I learned since my diagnosis is how necessary it is not just to speak directly to somebody, but to also give them the space to do the same back. And if you meet somebody that you feel doesn't understand something, it's great if everyone could have a tool of asking questions. That's what I love about the show. It's just so straightforward, and you get to laugh at certain things that people feel safe and comfortable to ask questions. And I guess to boil it down, empathy exists in everybody, but people express it and understand it differently.
That is a powerful lesson to have learned and to share. Albert, let me bring you in the conversation. This was your first major role as an actor. What was your favorite moment on set with your castmates?
Violet's party, definitely. And specifically what happened with the cake. When we were filming there are multiple takes where she just completely destroys, throw it across the room. But on one of the takes, that she threw the cake all the way across the room. It landed way far away, but it was intact. And we're all just laughing. And it's like, how did you accomplish that exactly? I don't know.
That definitely looks fun. Well, I can't tell you that I would throw the cake, but I'm down for eating the cake. And creator Jason Katims is with us. Jason, you said you sought to make a coming-of-age story about neurodiverse cast of 20-somethings to show a diversity of characters on the spectrum. But what surprised you when you were putting the show together in the editing room most? I'm curious.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, that was the amazing experience to me about doing the show was when I was in the editing room, I was watching episodes, and I was just so delighted watching the show and delighted by what I was seeing. And I realized, like, I set out to do the show about neurodiverse characters, a coming-of-age story about neurodiversity, and I realized I was just doing coming of age story.
It's so beautiful. I know you, and we know Hollywood certainly has a history of sidelining actors with disabilities and other challenges. But in the last few years, we've seen different voices from all ends of the space shining through. When you created the NBC show Parenthood, you actually introduced a character, Max, whose parents learned that he was on the spectrum, but he was not then played by someone who identified as having autism. You have a personal connection to this story. Your son is a young adult who identifies as being on the spectrum, autism spectrum as well. As a dad, I think it's obvious, but I would love to hear it from you, what it was like to have this opportunity to bring this story from what you've experienced personally.
Right. Well, it's a personal story to me. When I did Parenthood, there were no characters with autism that were on broadcast television, or at least characters where they said they had autism. The word autism was never mentioned before. And when I did that show, I got such an reaction to it that I never could have imagined from people who were connected to that subject matter or not connected to it. People would say, I understand my grandson now. I didn't understand him before. People who were on the spectrum were so honored to see that. I think Sue Ann said she watched that show, and that was a meaningful show seeing that character was meaningful to her.
So Sue Ann, was there anything different about the experience of being an actor who has autism while shooting this show?
Yeah, normally on most sets, I have to hide the things about me that make me stick out as autistic. So, I'm constantly, monitoring what I'm saying, how my facial expressions are, and so to come on set as an actor with autism, and not only did I not have to hide all these things about me that were so innate, finally, for once in my life, but it was my autism that was appreciated. And I've never had that experience. It was the most kindest set I'd ever been on, most compassionate world I've been in. So I'm so grateful for that.
Oh my gosh. Well, Rick, what did you experience on set that was different from some of the other experiences you had on other sets?
It was, I was very nervous going into it because it was just a new thing to me, not just on a show that this is a dream to tell stories like this, but I want you to like me. And I come in and there was Elaine Hall, who is a woman who was an on-set advocate for us, and this whole community of people that either identify on the spectrum or are related to people on the spectrum, at least a good majority of them. And there was this kind of acceptance that was very comforting and maybe allowed for me to be more annoying than I needed to be. It's a show about autism, but it's very relatable, and it wasn't about autism, at least not on set anymore. And just people were just kind and understanding, and it just gave a very safe place. And I was grateful personally to have an opportunity that my next job was someplace so accepting where I didn't have to worry and second guess, and allowed me to just kind of do my job.
Well, Jason, you said one of the most beautiful things about this experience has been watching your cast grow on set. You became very close to the cast. What was one of your proudest moments that you witnessed?
One moment I remember when we first started shooting early on, it was between takes, and it was a lighting setup, and it gets kind of loud on the set sometimes between takes, and people having conversations and the crew's moving stuff around. And Albert was on in the set, in the living room set, and he was sitting on the stool by the kitchen island. And it was early on, and it was kind of noisy, and he had his hands over his, ears like this, because it was just too much was going on for him, and he, wanted it to be calmer. And Sue Ann came up to him, sat on the stool next to him, didn't say anything, but just went like this. And it was like, I just thought this was just the most beautiful thing to see. It was just an example of just what happened every day, of how these actors were there for each other, supported each other, and that, created this beautiful atmosphere on set. And then fast forward to a few episodes later, same thing. I walk onto the set between takes. It's loud. It's, kind of, it's kind of chaotic. And I see Albert, I'm singing a show tune, full volume, and to see like how just to see how these, the set became this family in a short amount of time. And it really did. It was really, it was a great thing to be part of and to get to know them.